What's up guys, it's Kill Hider. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for tuning in. I changed it up today. I usually sit back there at the desk, but today I'm sitting over here by the window for better lighting. I don't know, switching it up. So today we're going to be talking about my story of going from being an athlete to paralyzed from the chest down. My story is pretty interesting, so here we go. I have always had a huge passion for basketball. I love it. My passion really sparked though in 6th grade when I changed basketball teams. I'd always played for my school travel team, but then I switched over to a local travel team. There was new coaches who pushed me even harder than before, and I had a trainer that got me into shape. I liked the philosophy of the team, and I had a great time playing. My skills really developed, and by the time I was a freshman, I was doing really well. I played up on the sophomore team, wasn't getting a ton of minutes, but still on the sophomore team. After my freshman year, I started going to the gym all day and lifting as much as possible, running with the cross-country team, doing as much as possible so that I could be as good of an athlete as possible. I'm going to start my story on June 16th. I was actually paralyzed on June 18th, but I just want to give you a glimpse of what my daily schedule was like before paralysis. So on June 16th, I woke up. I always went to 7:30 lifting, and then after lifting, I would go over and shoot at the local YMCA. After I shot at the Y, I went over to our school's open gym. That night, I had a basketball practice. So I was pretty consumed with basketball, and I loved it. It's all I did. That unfortunately, things changed. On June 17th, I woke up with tingling in my fingers, and my back was extremely sore and weak. I couldn't lift weights, so I didn't go to lifting, and I wasn't able to shoot because my arms were so weak. I wasn't able to play on my game on Wednesday because my mom wanted me to go to the pediatrician to see what was the matter. The pediatrician did an x-ray, and the x-ray was clear. The x-ray would have been clear because I didn't have a broken bone or anything. It was nervous system. I missed my game on Wednesday. The next day was Thursday, which is the day I became officially paralyzed, but later in the afternoon. So in the morning, I woke up on that Thursday with same symptoms, tingling in my fingers, weak and sore back. However, later in the afternoon, I came home from open gym. I was just there to watch and participate. I couldn't really shoot. I came home and my symptoms intensified. My hands got super tingly, and my shoulders were really weak where I couldn't even lift my arms above my head. So I called my mom home. My mom came home. She said that we needed to set up an appointment with a physical therapist to see what was going on, to try to work out my stiff muscles and sore back. She called the physical therapy office, and they said they couldn't get me into the next day. And all of a sudden my body went into a complete panic. I was freaking out, I was crying, yeah. And then I went over and I sat down on the couch. My mom said that she would try to rub my back out, and my legs were super jittery. They were bouncing up and down. I didn't know what was happening. My mom was rubbing BioFreeze on my back, trying to loosen up my shoulders. Then she told me to try to get up and stand up and walk it out, and I couldn't move my legs at all. Like, I went to stand up and it wasn't even possible. So then she freaked out and she called my dad home, and then my dad got home like 15 minutes later. They carried me to the car and we went to the local hospital. At that time, I could still kind of move my arms, my hands. I could open and close my hands, but I was unable to use my legs, and I could feel my trunk getting weaker and weaker. So the progression was kind of paralysis from bottom up. I was in the local hospital for like an hour until they told me that they couldn't treat me because they didn't have the resources to do so. So they ran a few blood tests, and then they sent me to a larger hospital 2 hours away. By the time I got to the larger hospital, I was completely unable to move my arms or legs. I could only use my eyes and shrug my shoulders. So the paralysis had moved all the way up to above my chest. Once I got to the hospital, they took me to the MRI to do a full brain and spinal cord MRI to see what the matter was. They knew it was something neurological because I was unable to move my arms or feel when they did the pressure test where they would say, "Can you feel this? Can you feel this?" So I was in the MRI for 3 hours, and I came out at like 1 in the morning on June 19th. Yeah, it kind of sucked. So anyway, the next day I woke up. Well, I didn't wake up. The doctor came in at like 6 a.m. and I was like, bruh, is this a dream? Nah, it wasn't a dream. And he came in and he like did all this doctor talk that I had no idea at the time. Like, dude, what are you saying? When can I go back and play basketball? Not knowing how serious it was, and it was serious. He said, look, you had damage to your spinal cord, I'm like, how? I didn't even get in an accident. And he said, it's called transverse myelitis, where the spinal cord became inflamed. We don't know how, but it just did, and it cut connection between your brain and your lower extremities and your arms, so you're unable to move your arms. And I'm like, well, so how long is this gonna last? And he was like, yeah, we don't know for sure. We don't know what's gonna happen, but we're gonna run a few tests and get you some infusions and try to clear out the inflammation from your spinal cord. I had 5 rounds of plasmapheresis, which is filtering of the blood to get out any harmful substances from my blood, and then 5 rounds of anti-inflammatory steroids to remove any of the inflammation in my spinal cord. I was in the hospital for 10 days. The lesion, or the bruise or the affected area of my spinal cord, was more on the right side of the cord, so that meant I have excessive damage on the right side and not a ton on the left. So by the time I was done at the hospital, I could move every part of my left leg. It was weak, but I could do it. I could close my hand on the left side, but the right side was completely limp still. I couldn't move my right leg at all, and I could really only flex my elbow on the right. So the right side was super affected, but the left side was coming along faster because the lesion was on the right side. After the 10 days in the hospital, they said, all right, there's nothing more that we can do for you because this condition has no cure. So I was like, great. So I went to Shriners Hospitals in Chicago at the end of June until midway through August. So I was inpatient there in Chicago. I live in Iowa, so it's 3 hours away, so I was unable to see any of the people in my class for 3 months. There was a few of my good friends who came up every weekend, and without them I don't think I would have been able to get through it. So I'm very glad for their support. At Shriners, we worked on everything. So first we started with just trying to transfer in and out of a wheelchair without me screaming in pain. I did have a little pain. My neck was sore from lying flat for so long, but then they gave me steroids to alleviate that pain, which was nice. I had nerve tingling sensations throughout my body. The nerve tingling sensations come from the brain just like repeatedly firing and not being able to meet its destination through the spinal cord, so it sends off tingling sensations throughout the body. I spent almost 2 months at Shriners before my sophomore year in high school, which sucked. You know, as a sophomore, you're looking forward to like going to parties or playing basketball and all that stuff, and I was in a pediatric hospital in Chicago. After the 2 months I spent there, I'd progressed pretty quickly. I was able to stand in it's called a stander. You sit down and it raises you up to standing slowly, because once you've been sitting down for so long, once you go to stand up, your blood pressure drops super quickly and people pass out. So the first part of a recovery was trying to stand up without passing out. So I could do the stander, which was awesome, because that helps with bone density, because also when you've been sitting so long, you haven't been putting pressure on your legs, so your bones get super weak, which can lead to brittle bones. My left leg was super strong, or getting stronger. I wouldn't say super strong. I was able to bear weight through it and move it through its normal walking pattern, but my right leg wasn't strong at all and can barely move. So they put this brace on all the way through from my hip all the way to my foot that locked it in a straight line. I would use a walker. I would put my hands up on this walker. I would walk normally with my left and then like swing my right leg through, and that's how I got strong enough to start walking more normally. My right leg came around slowly, and I got out of that long brace into shorter brace, and then a shorter brace, and then a shorter brace. Now where I have this brace right below my knee, the brace below my knee is a neuromuscular stimulator, which will pull my foot up so that I can walk. I'm unable to lift my right foot up on my own. Once I got stronger from walking, I went from the big walker where I'd rest my arms on the walker to a rollator where you push the rollator, but you can also sit on it. And then from the rollator, I went straight to walking because my arms were so weak I couldn't use a cane. I couldn't push through my triceps to balance myself, so I had to go straight from the walker to walking on my own, which was a huge step. And that took me, I was able to do that in April. So let's see, it started in June. So 10 months after my spinal cord injury, I was able to walk on my own without any assistance, except my little brace on my right leg. I mean, that's a blessing. So yeah, not everybody has it as easily as I did. I mean, I went through hell, but some people, when they have a spinal cord injury, their injury is considered complete, which means that their spinal cord is severed into 2 or more sections, which results in no information from the brain being able to be transmitted to muscle destination. So yeah, that would really suck. My injury was incomplete, so my spinal cord was completely intact. Over time, as the pathways regenerated themselves, I was able to have more function and do more. After my 2 months inpatient at Shriners, I went home for the first time. That sucked a lot. Like, I pulled in the driveway, I remember, and I was just bawling my eyes out because it was real. It was real. I was then outpatient at Shriners, where I would go up to Shriners. I would still go the 5 days a week, but I was able to come home on the weekends. And the main purpose of that was for me to transition from always having nursing care and doctors all around me to living on my own again. And I hated coming home. Like, there was nothing for me to do here. I just wanted to be at Shriners so I could keep getting better and better. I did outpatient therapy at Shriners until the end of December, and then I no longer went up to Shriners, and I only stayed in my hometown to do therapy at my local therapy center. I didn't return to school full-time until second semester, so I missed most of my first semester, and I did all my schoolwork online through my teachers because I didn't want to miss school. I wanted to keep up with my schoolwork so I could graduate on time. In April of 2016, my family and I heard of a nerve transfer surgeon who was transferring nerves to give people better function in their hands and their legs. And I didn't have a lot of hand function at the time, so I decided to give it a shot and go out and have a consultation with him. So in April of that year, I had nerve transfer surgeries, and as you can see, these little scars on my arm, I have a lot of them. They're like my tattoos. They're all to give me better function. I have some under my arms and on both sides. I mean, they're everywhere because the spinal cord injury hit my hand so hard that they really didn't have a ton of function until after the nerve transfer surgery, where everything was being rerouted and I was getting more function in my hand. So I'm very blessed for people like my doctor and surgeon who are able to reroute these nerves and give me better function. After the nerve transfer surgery, it was working day in and day out with my hands to make new connections from my brain to my hands in order to have better function. Since there's no cure for my spinal cord injury, I have to work every day with therapy and on my own in order to get my body back to how I want it to be. My experience hasn't been completely negative. Even though my body completely deteriorated, it has given me several opportunities to better myself. My injury has given me the passion to want to become a doctor and work towards curing paralysis through research. Also, I became more academically minded so that I could get into a top institution and research with doctors who have a lot of experience in my field. So yeah, that's basically my story. I went from being a pretty good athlete to complete paralysis, but through diligence and determination, I worked my way back, and with luck, because things could have been a lot worse and I may not have been able to recover as well as I have. So I'm very fortunate and very thankful that God allowed me to progress this far. If you have any specific questions about my condition, please comment below and I'll be happy to answer. I'm very excited for Hopkins next year, where I can work with my doctor, Dr. Carlos Pardo. He works at Johns Hopkins Hospital. He's one of the most experienced neurologists who treat my conditions. I'm very excited to work with him on his research into my diagnosis of transverse myelitis. Also, I'll be majoring in neuroscience next year, so I can't wait to learn more about the nervous system in the brain and how I can use that education and the research under Dr. Carlos Pardo to gain a better understanding of my condition and hopefully generate a cure in the future. Alright, that's it. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on my notifications so that you can follow my journey throughout the next years of my life. Thank you and see you later.